Andy Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua's location and venue has been decided, at least for the time being, and it is in Saudi Arabia. Now, a lot of you will already know this, so this is more of a discussion, more than breaking news. And I have mixed emotions about it. I think that both AJ and, Eddie Hearn more than Matchroom are going to cop quite a lot of stick for this. And part of it is deservedly so, but I sincerely believe that the fight would have happened in Cardiff had Andy Ruiz not flat out said he refuses to come to the UK. And to me, it sounds as if that Saudi was the most lucrative, neutral location. And I actually really have no sympathy for Andy Ruiz here, because he signed a contract. He understood the terms. His team and himself must have known how big a rematch could have been. The $9 million probably would have been negotiated over, and for a guy that I've worked quite closely to contract engineers and contract lawyers in the past, and trust me when I say that these things aren't done in the blink of an eye. They're not done quickly. Every single line, every single word of the document is scrutinized and deliberated over. There is no way that his team wouldn't have considered the option of the fight being rematched in one of these more exotic locations, these maybe potential oil states that have a lot of money, a lot of liquidity, that if the fancy takes them, or if they're looking to invest and move the country in a certain direction, they will essentially buy up these events. It's happened time and time before, and there's no way that wouldn't have been a consideration. So when that £9 million, I think it's £9 million, or maybe it's $9 million, that was stipulated in the contract for a rematch, that was his guarantee, the time to dispute that was then, not now. To me, now it just looks childish and greedy. Now, that's a bit rich, considering that it's Matchroom that have taken... And let's be fair, it's Anthony Joshua that decides where the fight is, ultimately, not Matchroom. So it's not fair for me to say that it's Matchroom that's taken the fight to Saudi. But the move to Saudi isn't driven primarily by greed. That's secondary. It's driven there primarily because Ruiz refused to come to the UK. Flat out refused after, and what happened with Diriyah and White gave more fuel to that fire. And to be fair, probably more justification not to come to the UK. And I think from what I can garner, the Cardiff option was actually the least lucrative of all. But I do believe that that's where the fight would have been had the Ruiz camp not threatened flat out to pull out. However, for me, that's a card you can only play once. You can't say we flat out refuse to come to the UK, we want neutral territory or it to be in Mexico. Then the alternative is decided, it's neutral. You can't then say, we don't want to fight there either. You don't get any decision based on the contract you agreed to. The fact that they've foregone Cardiff, you need to take that as a victory and say, okay, well, we'll take whatever else comes our way. For me, it's a bit spoiled. I don't, and from everything before the AJ fight, Ruiz seemed like the nicest guy in the world, and I watched a lot of his fights and a lot of his interviews before this, and I had a really high opinion of him. And whether it's through his own, and I keep saying that it must be other people putting these words in his mouth, but he's the one tweeting it. So whether or not the words are his, he's still owning the responsibility of saying it. And for me, it seems quite childish and quite bratty. So I don't want to do this. I know you've already foregone all rights to say what you do and don't want to do when you signed a contract. You were happy to take the $4 or $5 million, and obviously in the rematch, the money was doubled. If you didn't think double was enough, then dispute it then. And if you didn't dispute it, then you don't then get to say after the fact, no, but when I signed it, I didn't. You don't get to do that. And to then flat out refuse to fight and to threat about pulling out of the fight, and it just speaks of immaturity to me. I don't know. I hope that he's still the same person at his core, and obviously money and power can corrupt people. I hoped that he hasn't suddenly been corrupted that quickly. But I can't really even entertain the other side of the argument that what he's saying is fair, because it's not. Fair is what was in the contract. If you didn't think the contract was fair initially, then you shouldn't have signed it. It's not like, Ruiz was, someone had a gun to his head and said, sign it. He was the one that begged for the fight, that literally begged for the fight, that didn't mention money once to Eddie Hearn from what Eddie Hearn had said. When it was because of his lack of mentioning of money and the fact that he really thought he could win the fight that they decided he was the right choice. And now he's got a little bit of a, I say a little, he's got $4 or $5 million worth of a taste of that lifestyle, and maybe he spent it all, I don't know. But it for me, it kind of screams of entitlement now. I really don't. It's kind of leaving. The more I think about it, it's leaving kind of a bit of a poor taste in my mouth. But that Ruiz as a person and his decisions isn't really the point here. The point is that the fight is in Saudi, and what do we think about that, regardless of what the fighters think. I'm not enamored with the decision. I would much prefer it to be in the UK. The fans have supported AJ throughout his entire career, and this is when he needs the support the most. And instead of, the thing is, AJ wanted it in the UK. I don't doubt that. I'm sure he would have loved to fight in front of his fans. I honestly, I don't think we can really, or we shouldn't kind of undersell or understate how real the threat of the Ruiz team pulling out if it was in the UK. In which case, it's just too messy. It's not worth risking losing all the belts and all the millions of dollars and pounds to just go and fight somewhere else. And then Saudi come along with a very attractive offer, and they have a proven history these last couple of years of facilitating great events, fantastic events. And I obviously live and work in Dubai, and I've never been to Saudi, but from what I can garner, the infrastructure is very similar. They're very, very advanced. It's a beautiful place. And Dubai, again, I wish the fight came to Dubai, actually, because I love it here. And everything's spotlessly clean. There's no crime. There are people have perceptions of places they've never been to. Some right, some wrong, some justified, some not. But again, what they're doing here with Saudi isn't a world first. No hardcore boxing fan is going to forget the thrill in Manila. Zaire, this isn't unheard of. Okay, and let's not forget, I'm pretty sure it was because of Thrill in Manila that got kind of Manny Pacquiao into boxing. That might not be true. Fact check that for me. But I'm for sure there will be a lot of stories like that, with fights like that coming to Saudi. Maybe there's, because I think Nassim Hamed, he's Arabian blood, and probably the most prolific puncher in history as far as I'm concerned, at least the most entertaining that I've ever seen. So the thing is, it's only one fight in history. It feels like a huge deal because it is a huge deal, but it'll come and it'll go. So I don't think we should be, holding anyone or dragging anyone over the coals really for this. I think there's an amalgamation of reasons why it's happening. I don't think Saudi would ever have been a first choice. And I do stand by. And I'm not defending anyone's position. I'm just trying to look at this as objectively as possible. I've seen the most recent IFL TV with Eddie Hearn, and he's getting absolutely slated. It's all about money, it's greed, and it's terrible, and it's a disgrace, and they thought he was a dick, but now he's a complete asshole, and I don't see that. I think that they, in trying to kind of de-risk the fight, they've taken it to a neutral location while maximizing their revenue. To me, it's a smart choice. The thing is, if you have to get on a plane, you have to get on a plane. And the main concerns with Saudi, of course, would be how do you get into the country? How do you get a visa? Because traditionally it's invite only. And How they've orchestrated this, I have no idea. But now you're issued a visa when you buy a ticket. That's incredible. An incredible level of trust. And it's a 30-day visa, I think, as well. It's not just like, you have to get out within 2 days. So I'm debating about whether I want to go to the fight or not. It's only a 2-hour flight for me. It's just that it's in the beginning of December, and I fly back home to Europe for Christmas again. So it's, well, we'll see. I have tentatively reserved a hotel room, but whether or not I'll actually, I might cancel it yet. We'll see. We'll see what the flight prices. Actually, the flight prices I looked at weren't too bad. I haven't seen ticket prices yet. That's what I'm waiting for. Because I've never actually been to a live boxing event, and I've been a huge fan of boxing for a long time. And I was always kind of saving like the perfect fight. And I very nearly went to Vegas for Canelo and Triple G, and I'm so glad I didn't, because the fight was a bit of a bore as far as I'm concerned. But I don't think... I guess the Joshua Ruiz fight has the potential to be a bit of a bore, because Ruiz is fairly low volume, and if Joshua wants to be low volume, then it could be a bit of a non-event, actually, and Joshua kind of boxing a fairly boring decision, maybe a contested decision. But I think the spectacle of it and what's on the line, I guess that maybe bigger than this would be the unifying the heavyweight division. I think Wilder and Joshua, again, will probably be quite low volume, but I think it will be a very spectacular finish. So anyway, that's not really part of the video. Please let me know what your thoughts are. Maybe I have an unconscious bias towards Matchroom. I really don't think I do. I am absolutely enormously grateful to Matchroom for reviving boxing back in the UK, and ultimately reviving boxing globally, because I do think that there was a rise of Anthony Joshua that breathed life back into boxing in a big way. I don't think that should be understated either. Even the fact that since he's lost, I think boxing sale and interest have dipped, maybe 20-30%, all because he lost. So I love this sport like you wouldn't believe. So to see it rise to the kind of the popularity it was like last year, early this year, for me was amazing. And the amount of boxing I have available to me now because of Matchroom, again, I'm very, very grateful. So I don't care. But again, that doesn't mean I can't look at something objectively. Facts are facts. Simple. But yeah, please let me know your thoughts. Do you intend to attend? Of course, it's going to be on at like 9 p.m, which is a perfect time for UK. And I think it's in the afternoon for the Americans as well. So no one has to stay up till 5 a.m. to see it. I guess some Americans might be at work, but I guess the majority, because it's a weekend, they'll be off. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch up with you guys soon.